tangible kingdom. The idea is we want to talk for a while about bringing God's kingdom, his church, to life in our community, creating incarnational communities. So this is inspired from a book by Hugh Halter, who I sometimes will quote in other messages. And he's just really inspired me in my walk and how he does church and how he leads in his area of expertise. And I loved this book, and it was all about incarnational community means, being the face of Jesus where you're at. So we're in Avon, Ohio, and some of the surrounding areas you guys might represent. And we want to talk about bringing God's kingdom, especially in a time that's so weird and connections off. I was just talking to Ethan earlier about how he's been online for school like all year. And just what does that do for you growing up in this time? Maybe you're past the lessons that you were supposed to learn already, like sharing and the basic things of that nature with when you were little. But like you learn so much socially at this time in your life, at this age. And it's like a whole year that you just miss that, I don't know if you feel that, but that's what's happening to you. And I don't want that to feel depressing, but that's our reality. And God calls us to be the face of Jesus, to really bring his grace and his mercy, and be an extension of those things in our families, in our communities, where he's placed us, right? And I don't know, it just feels like, what do we do when that feels like it's missing, where you can't be as social as you used to be? So we're going to talk about community, biblical community, and what's a barrier to that. Hugh Halter wrote this book pre-COVID, and he was already seeing some barriers to having community, really bringing these kinds of Jesus, God-focused communities to life around us. And so there's already some barriers we can look at that stop us from even being able to do that, but especially right now we're kind of stopped and halted from being the church that we kind of built around us, or we expect we're supposed to be looking like in our community, right? I was talking to somebody earlier at Sunday service. He was a greeter, and he had this idea of going out into the community and just like pumping gas for people, right? Like going up maybe in your Hope shirt and like, we're the greeters of hope. Let's go greet people out there too. And not just, during Sunday where we limit it to only 100 people that can be here. They're like, what if we were greeters outside? What if we just showed up at Get-Go and we're like, hey, Get-Go clerk, can this be the hope gas pump for the day or for these next few hours? And people will put a sign up, say, hey, you don't even have to get out of your car. We'll just pump your gas for you. And I was like, that's a great idea, to be out there in the community and think differently. I don't know how people would take that. Like, no, don't touch my car. I'm not sure. But I think God's doing something among people that love him. And they're like, how do I impact people? How do I be the face of Jesus right now? How do I, get to practice my faith, practice the walk? I'm stuck at home. I've watched all of Netflix. I've watched all of Hulu. I've watched all of Amazon Prime. I've watched all of YouTube, which is what? How did we do it? But we did. It's a very impressive feat. So, I don't know, I just want to have a conversation today. That's why I have the whiteboard up here. I'm going to just play teacher today because you don't even get to go to school and stuff, Like, you've got different age groups in here, different grades, different ages of adults. And I want everybody to just speak in what you're feeling. Is this, how depressing is this right now? Do you feel like you're having any impact? Do you feel like you're getting to be who God created you to be, or is that kind of slowed down? Because community is so important. It's so premier in the Bible, right? And even my generation especially, what I hear is like, what do you want out of church, or what do you want right now in life? And it's like, I want community. And then like the older people that you tell that to are like, what does that mean? And then you don't really know, but something within us just says, well, I think I want community. But we're like the most connected generation ever. We're like the least lonely generation of all time, because I don't know, it's not special anymore to hang out with people in person, or you know what I mean, to the great. It is for me, because I'm not on my phone that much. but anyway, so community, that's our main focus. And what is our biggest barrier that I want to talk about tonight to having community is individualism. Have you ever heard that word before? Especially the younger people. Raise your hand if you've heard the term individualism. You've heard individualism. Okay, cool. How would you, look really quickly, a sentence, how would you define then, if you've heard what individualism is, what is it? So there becomes this self-service, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but yeah, so for some reason, individualism very much defines our generation. I'm sure it's been passed down. There's a lot of factors to how it's come about, but what's best for me, what's best for my personal brand, and we'll get into all that. Does that make sense, you guys? I know you raised your hands. Is that what you were thinking, maybe, but you didn't really want to answer? Yeah, yes and no for a couple people. All right. Do you know what a ham radio is? Oh, I did not expect any of the students to do you have one, Noah? You're like vigorously. It's on your Christmas list.
It's not, because like to get a radio license and stuff, I'm just too lazy to go and study for the tests and stuff, but I want one.
I had no idea I was going to speak anybody's language with it. You probably know more about this than me. The point I was going to make with that, and I'll tell your mom, like, make sure you get this thing. He really wants it. Like, his head came off, shaking his head for it. The ham radio is it's like nostalgic for my childhood because my uncle has one. And whenever I went over to visit in Tennessee, I would like talk to people that are just complete strangers in any part of the world and become friends with them over the course of a small conversation. And like that was a way that people just decided, I'm going to connect with people and have some sort of community. And obviously there's a ham radio community out there. But like writing this conversation down, writing my notes down, I thought about that and went, man, like right now we're so fast. Like this is, my phone's charging. If I could make calls on this, I could like talk to anybody so fast, right? The ham radio, there was just like a process to it. I was waiting there a lot of the times for somebody to come on. And that it just made it sweeter to come into a relationship with this person, even over this radio, and get to know their history, get to know their name, get to know why they started doing this whole radio business. And anyway, there was a beautiful community to that and coming into a relationship with people. But that whole process is like putting that person that you want to get to know first. Like you're not going in there wanting to talk about yourself and brag about yourself to some rando stranger. You were getting ready to interview this person in a way and ask them questions and get to know somebody that's a human being that God has created that you just happen to not get to be around in the vicinity of. But the barrier to this has become individualism, and it's really come with, I think, a major factor is the technology we have, where we see what are we supposed to be like, right? We see somebody, we see something out there in the world that we now have access to faster than ever, and we get to see a whole plethora of these things, and we go, okay, what is the world expecting me to be like, right? And then you end up trying to be what you think the world wants you to be, and then you idolize yourself that's not even really yourself. It's this version that's come about from people's projections in the world that you think you're supposed to be. So individualism is a deep-seated bias This is Hugh Halter's definition, that fights against commitment to anything that doesn't directly serve our individual interests. Most specifically, this relates to our interaction with people. Although we may want a deeper sense of community, we're not going to make changes in our lives so that we can commit to it. Right? Does that sound like a pretty fair definition as well? Yeah. What's on our calendar that makes us cancel on other people? If individualism is true, it's playing out in canceling plans. That's a big way that comes to mind first. But so if that's true, what's on our calendar that makes us cancel on other people's plans? Yeah. You're not sure? Yeah, Lincoln. Your sports make you cancel on people. Okay. Yes, Caden. What is it? Homework. Homework. Work. What's the most embarrassing thing that you didn't tell the person you were canceling for? I'm watching YouTube. Yeah.
A lot of times, just I can't. That's the whole reason. I don't want to go out or see people. I'm emotionally and people exhausted.
I don't wanna. I ain't got the energy for this. Yeah. What else? What's the most recent thing you've canceled on somebody for over? Yeah, Lincoln. There you go. Okay. Parents didn't drive me there. This episode's going straight to your parents' email inbox. I know. Yeah.
So let's say the thing that you're canceling on is, let's say, calling you and tell you that they want you. And let's say you say, okay, I'm coming. And then your other friend calls you and says they want to do the same thing, and you cancel on the first friend.
Oh.
Hypothetical.
So just say one over the other.
Another friend I like better? Another friend I like better, or maybe it's going to be an experience that tops what you were previously invited to. Now we're getting to the good stuff. I like how he was like, let me set the table for you here. Say there's a friend who calls me. I'm like, I kind of like this kid. All right, I'll hang out with you. Then my best friend calls, who's way cooler. I like it. Yeah, Caden.
You're like tired.
You're tired? Okay. Is that kind of similar to I don't have the energy, I don't wanna?
Never know.
Too tired? I'm too exhausted from all my other stuff going on in life. Yeah.
I think really just getting caught up in stuff.
Too busy. I gotta cut something out. And it's gotta be you. Double booking. See? You don't do that with the ham radio. You just sit there eating a bagel for 2 hours, wait until somebody says, hello? Hello! Yes! Yeah, I've been waiting for a long time. Yeah, Hallie.
A few weeks ago or so, I canceled on my friend because I was in the middle of watching a movie.
There we go. We're getting into it, guys. Give it a round of applause. I do that like every Tuesday.
I just want to stop the movie.
What movie was it?
I don't remember. I think it was like the Harry Potter movie.
Oh, you were in a Harry Potter marathon?
Well, I don't remember which one.
It's just more comfortable watching a movie, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I was in the middle of it, so
Yeah. I do love Harry Potter, I'll tell you. All right, yeah.
Playing video games.
Okay, so we're getting to movies, video games, that kind of thing. Gotcha. So the person becomes less than, like we're not interested in the person as much as this toy, this entertainment. Yeah, Edwin.
Does it count if you like totally like don't tell them and like sleep?
You watched it, and you're like, nah, bro, ignored it, and then went to take a nap?
Yeah. Just like your alarm goes off, you snooze it, and just like 3 hours later you're
Oh, sorry, bro. I was, yeah.
really busy.
I was really busy. I was really busy watching a movie.
I was just like, I was asleep, and they were like, good, you need it.
Okay, are we pretty good here with the list? You satisfied? Okay. I was watching this great stand-up bit, and I've watched like the 2-minute segment of it like all week because it just makes me laugh so much. And it's almost exactly what Ethan House said. So the stand-up comedian says that we're in this the least lonely generation of all time. What's wrong with us? We can't commit to anybody. We can't commit to anything. Somebody, a kind of a good friend, says, hey, do you want to go watch this movie? Do you want to go to this concert? Do you want to go do this thing? And you're like, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if I want to do that. Maybe. Holding out hope, maybe taking a nap to see if anything else arrives, right? And then something else does come up that's a little bit better. And you're like, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he's like, your kind of good friend Phil calls you up. And he's like, hey, do you... Oh, the first part, there's part 1 and 2 of this with Phil, okay? Part 1 is you used to have a landline. Does anybody have a landline still? Yeah. Do you use it? No. Oh, wow, okay. So you kind of get this. So he says all you used to have was a landline. Like 40 years ago, you sat in your wooden chair, eating a can of beans, waiting for the landline to go off. And then it rings, and you run over. You're like, who is it? And then Phil invites you out to the movies. And you're like, okay, great, see you there at 8. And you get there at 8, and back in this day, if they didn't arrive at 8, they were dead. like it's 8:15. Oh no, Phil is dead. It was the only polite way to cancel on anybody 40 years ago. Oh, I found that to be hilarious. And then part 2, even more so, he says that Phil invites you out to the apple orchard to pick apples, right? And then you're like, yeah, of course, Phil, that'd be awesome. And then you go to the apple orchard, and a better friend, a cooler friend than Phil, calls and is like, you won't believe this, you two got back together. They're doing a concert like in our favorite restaurant right now. Do you want to come? And then they're like, I can't, I'm picking apples with Phil. And then you're so sad, and then you like despise Phil after that, right? Yes. So this is like where we're at, right? Does any of that resonate with you? It sounds like it from your answers, that kind of feels like, do you feel like that happens around, like the people you're observing more than it happens within yourself? Or do you feel like, yeah, I'm in this boat with everybody? Sometimes, yeah. So, I mean, individualism, this came from like this idea that, like I think Judah put it really well, that it's come to a self-service, an idolizing of ourselves and our time and what we want and desire. And I mean, it kind of started, most of it started, I would say, during like the Enlightenment time. You've heard that in school, Enlightenment time. And even Christian people who practice science were like Francis Bacon, Isaac Newton, like these major scientific discoveries happened, and they were trying to discover God. Like they were trying to know more about this creator that they worshiped and they wanted to know more about. They are so smart, they actually discover these truths. They bring them to the world, And there's whole cultures that start taking these findings, taking this research and going like, oh, we have the keys to life now. Like we can do this on our own, right? Apparently the research to other people from the very people who practice science trying to discover God were saying, oh, we don't need God, right? We don't need to follow anybody. I guess we can kind of unlock our own answers to life. And what individualism incites, talked about a little bit, is like self-sufficiency. That we don't actually need God. Or we can, I've heard this many times in classes, especially college, where it's like I can pull from a buffet of different beliefs. Like this helps me be more peaceful. This helps me with my relationships. This helps me ultimately grow into a better person. This helps me understand my afterlife. Like it comes from different worldviews. I can pull from these things and just practice those. Whatever sounds best to me and feels the best to me. And that has everything to do with self-sufficiency. It doesn't come from what God said. It doesn't come from how God created me to be in relationship to him. It comes from my personal opinion and my personal preference. And I can just pull from these things and create a buffet of beliefs. All right? Or the desire for only the highest level of experience. I got to have myself the best possible experience that I can, right? And then this plays out into a philosophy of constantly pursuing the next thing, constantly pursuing what's most exciting, right? What's most pleasant, right? This is you ever heard of the Epicurean philosophy? This is the Epicurean philosophy. It was like, I'm going to base my whole life on what's the most pleasurable, right? And that's kind of where our generation's at right now. A third thing that comes to mind is that individualism brings about a desire for fame. Anybody want to be famous out there? Raise your hand if you're like, can't wait to be famous. On TikTok. Students, you don't care about fame? No, okay. Why do you care about fame? What do you want to be famous for?
One day I want to be on TV, so maybe like a TV person.
A TV person? Like an actor?
No, like
A weatherman?
someone on like sports talk radio or ESPN or something like that.
Sports talk. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I want to be known for my ability to talk sports and know. You want to be the next Stephen A. Smith? Sure. Awesome. Anybody else? Nobody else? You're all just down to... My man.
No other type of fame. Like Tony Hawk's a good one. Like Tony Hawk level is the perfect level of fame because it's like people know your name, people know who you are, but if Tony Hawk isn't holding a skateboard, nobody will recognize him. So like I like that. Where like if I'm like in a specific setting, people know who I am, but outside of that, like I'm completely different. Like I don't know how many of you watch Phineas and Ferb, but it's like where Dr. doesn't recognize Perry the Platypus unless he has his hat on.
Ah.
That type of fame, like that's how Tony Hawk is with a skateboard.
Yeah, preach it, bro. That's how I've always explained it. I just want that Tony Hawk fame. I want the money and my hobby and my own skate park in my house and nobody to bother me. I like it. Yes, sir. You want to be a famous YouTuber? Right on, right? So YouTube and TikTok, that's what we've heard. I mean, the Tony Hawk one, like that's a philosophy, man. Like that's some wisdom that people don't constantly, like they don't typically go to. Typically, it's like, I want to get huge on TikTok. Or YouTubing, student ministry, man. Kids your age have been saying, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up, since like 2013, I've been hearing this every single year, and I'm like, when's this YouTube thing gonna be over? It's not. Apparently it's not. TikTok, for sure. Thank you very much, Logan. It's literally in my notes. TikTok right now, that's why it's blowing up. I went to go do some research because I remembered from the back of my brain that Andy Warhol is the one he's an artist from way back when, before your time, before my time, and he's a very famous artist who is known for this quote, in the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes. Right? That everybody will have their 15 minutes of fame. You've heard that phrase, right? So he's noted for it. Apparently, it might not be him that said it. As I went into research, it might be a guy named Pontus Hultin, maybe. But doesn't matter. Apparently, it was said, in the future, everyone will be world famous for 15 minutes. Is that not the premise of TikTok? Is it not? Right? Like, I have a student, he's probably now 3 years out of high school, who got on TikTok. And he's like the first one that comes up every time I open it up. I've seen this kid get like 43 million views on TikTok. Yeah. I don't know, he knows the algorithm, man. But isn't that insane? Like, I can see this kid, and now 43 million people have seen this kid in one day. And I'm like, no, I know him. Like, all right, not these other people. Yeah? But we want fame. Right? This has been the story throughout the scriptures. Like, we know this all the way back at the beginning of the scriptures. Like, God is telling this story that we kind of want, and I said this 2 Sundays ago, we kind of want to build our own little throne. Right? Okay, now, you guys remember when I asked this question, what makes you cancel on people? What makes you cancel on church? What makes you cancel on being part of the community of faith? Yeah, Edwin. Sickness? Is this going to be the only one that gets added? Yeah. Nothing? All right. Yeah, Noah. We got sleep. Yeah, Caden.
That was the same thing. I was going to say tired.
Yeah. It doesn't change, does it? We just cancel on this stuff because we have this built in, especially in your generation, you just are around individualism. It has blossomed. It's become this huge thing around you. It's become the way of life. It's become the language of our generation. Now, what do you guys think of when you hear the term community, though? Edwin. Being a group that's on the same mission? Is that good? Okay. Group of people that share similar belief? Or a group of similar people? This gets dicey. This gets real toxic really quick. Because it could be I share the same belief that Jesus Christ is king and saves me, right? It's the only healthy posture when it comes to this. The only healthy thing you can think about. Because everywhere else it goes is group of similar people to me, group of similar belief system to me. That's just, I like people that are like me, right? I like myself, right? And it projects into having people around me that look like me or like me. You know what I mean? Okay, anything else? Kayla? Yeah. You want to see each other grow into the person God created you to be. You know, that's a beautiful thing. Adam.
A group who supports each other,
Mm.
we can rely on.
This is your team. Your team, you can rely on each other. Yeah.
A group with similar social status.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like the, I don't know what as soon as what came to mind is like like the bourgeois people. Oh, pass the caviar. Social status. I'm sorry, I'm going off the rails. We got to end here soon. I think this is pretty good. Now, we've got to look at this in with the lens of biblical community, right? I said earlier that our generation, when they're asked, what do you want in your church? What do you want right now? And it's community, but we can't really give a definition. We just know something inside of us needs that for our health, for our well-being, we're built for it. And the same generation, like we've talked about, is flaky when it comes to committing to things, committing to people, right? Committing to plans. I think that we all share this inward desire for community. That's our answer because of Ecclesiastes 3:11. It says, God has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also put eternity in their hearts, but no one can discover the work God has done from beginning to end. It is a mystery to us what God has done from beginning to end. But one thing we all share in common is that he's placed eternity into the hearts of people. He's placed eternity in your heart, and you're constantly going after that understanding of why, what's in there, what's this fingerprint of God, how can I understand it, right? And the way that it's going is I don't understand it, I don't get it, so I'm just going to become self-sufficient, you know? I'm going to follow my own heart because I can't understand this amazing transcendent fingerprint of God that's within me. And so community does represent a lot of this. Community represents togetherness. How God brings very diverse people together for his glory and his witness in the world. The Bible teaches that the church is going to be the four corners of the earth coming together to the table of fellowship, right? The context is actually quite different in opposition to what we're used to. What we're used to is hang out with your social status, hang out with similar people, hang out with people who are like you. But in the church, in Acts 2:9, we're going to look at in a second, they speak to people who were divided by ethnic lines and deep traditions, skin color, and alternative worldviews. All need to come to an understanding from these different diverse backgrounds. In Acts 2:9, we see Parthians, Medes, Elamites, Mesopotamian residents, residents of Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, Liberia, the Romans, Cretans, and Arabs coming to faith and navigating their way into this new inclusive community that's moving toward God, right? Grouping together on mission for this same mission, to grow closer to Jesus and to connect others to Jesus, doing life together, relying on each other, being the team, right? And the only thing that keeps us similar is our love for Jesus, is our salvation by God alone. And so community in the biblical sense is clearly about unlike people finding Christ at the center of their inclusive life together in fellowship. Right, Romans 3:9 tells us, "For we have already charged that both Jews and Greeks are all under sin." And Paul says there that we're all under sin, right? Regardless of your social status, regardless of where you were born, regardless of how good you think your moral compass is, We are all under sin and in need of Jesus. Right? And Jesus was always the right person in the wrong rooms in order to bring people together to follow his path. Right on? So we got to get into a fight with individualism and start to move toward real community that Jesus is establishing for us, right, in his church. So I saw a beautiful thing today because we're all kind of, the one thing we didn't put up here in our current state is we're canceling on people, we're canceling on church because of a pandemic, right? So what do you do? How do you gather together? How do you do this all safely and be in community? And I saw super old people from the church this morning. They've had a small group from this church for a long time. And the one person who told me a couple days ago, hey, we're going to pull our cars together in the church parking lot and open our trunks and safely share food and wear masks and be distanced with our lawn chairs and stuff. He was like, we're just tired of being far from each other. This is their small group that comes out of this larger church. That's the people they rely on. They're doing life together with. And they're like, we're just tired of not doing that other than on Zoom and stuff. So they pull up here. They've made food at their house as safely as they can. They put on masks when they're, close to each other, when they're not sharing stuff, and just got to catch up and got to do life and got to pray and got to rely on each other. And that happened right before we came here tonight. They were all parked out there. I'm like, there it is. There's some ways that we can be participating in this community still, right? So with that being said, I'm going to let Kayla close us out in taking communion, which is our community thing. Make sure you didn't sit on your cup. Make sure you get one around you if it fell off, right? We're going to take communion together. If you guys have any questions, comments, queries, whatever, let me know.
Today we're going to read 1 John 3, verses 1 through 9. And it says, "See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. All who have this hope in him purify themselves just as he is pure. Everyone who sins breaks the law. In fact, sin is lawlessness. But you know that he appeared so that he might take away our sins, and in him is no sin. No one who lives in him keeps on sinning. No one who continues to sin has either seen him or known him. Do not let anyone lead you astray." So as we spend time with God right now, I just want you to think of those words that we are children of God. We were adopted into his family because Jesus came here and he died for us. He came here and he took our sin. So as you take the bread and you take the juice, I want you to just think of Jesus and his body that's broken for us and his blood that's been poured out for us. And I'm going to give you guys a minute to go ahead and do that, and then I will pray for us. God, we thank you just for your perfect plan, Lord, for your perfect love that you poured out for us, God. That we continued and we go on and we sin, Lord, but that we can come back to you, God, every time and be forgiven. That we can come back to you and you just pour your love on us again, Lord, with your mercy and your grace. God, I pray for everyone in here. And I just pray for connection with you, God, connection with each other. Something that is so hard to come by right now, God. God, I thank you so much for each and every person in here. Amen.